see the angel coming for to sing his song. I can hear the drummer drumming. He's coming, and it won't be long. Hear the cry across the nations. People wanna be free, yeah. Free to leave the great plantations. Free to be who they want to be. I see it squeeze out freedom, and it won't be long.
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom, and good Tuesday night to you. It is the 19th of October in the year of our Lord 2021, and I am chuckling because right before I hit the live button, I looked at my title that I personally typed in, and no calling with a G. Powell is not a hero. So the only thing that I would do to fix that would be colon. I don't know where that G came from. It's completely my mistake. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Pam. And so here we go. Folks, listen, I'm going to talk tonight about, first of all, I just want to say, however long it takes, I believe with all my heart that it's not going to be that long. I believe that we are right on the verge of a lot of things, but I don't care how long it takes. We don't quit. We don't give in. We don't get discouraged. We don't acquiesce. None of the above. We might misspell once in a while. We might misspell. What can I say? So I am going to talk about the subject of Colin Powell. And I'm going to talk about another couple of individuals, and I want to try to frame some things in a proper perspective. But that is going to be basically the second half of the program. And I want to, in the first part of the program, folks, I want you to get I really want you to get, I know that if you're tuning into this program, you know that there's things, you know what's up, you know what's going on, you know that there are insidious things out there, but we're going to look at some really insidious stuff, and we're going to revisit a couple of things that I was able to just briefly touch on Sunday night. So let me just say, thanks for tuning in. Ohio for Freedom at protonmail.com. You can get with us. Please look for us on CloutHub. Look for us on Rumble. Look for us on Gab. And we are adding Odyssey to the mix. And so one way or another, you'll be able to find us, because after Sunday night's last show, I wasn't sure if we'd still be up or not, but here we are. So without any further ado, and Christina, I'm reading your comment, and thank you for being on YouTube. And Christina says, and you're right, Colin Powell was not a good guy. Well, we're going to talk about that in detail, and I'm going to give some substance. It's not going to just be me ranting, but I'm going to bring this up on the screen here. Pardon me. About 10 days ago, I saw an interview with Stu Peters, who just does an amazing job, man. He gets these really insightful people. And I saw Dr. Carrie Madej, and she was talking about the results of her examination of certain, let's just say, the little sticking points, the jabby-doos. And it was very, very, very concerning. And that kind of led to another interview that Stu Peters did with Karen Kingston. And she, I believe, is a former Pfizer employee, but she has way high credentials in that industry. And she had looked at a number of patents. I saw the interview. I wanted to look up the patent myself, and I just touched on it on Sunday night. And then, lo and behold, she went back and did another talk about it recently with Stu Peters. So I want to just give credit where credit's due. I'm not too proud to. Look, folks, there's so much going on. Nobody can research everything and stay completely on top of everything. It takes a lot of us working together. But I did download that patent, and it sure enough exists. And so what I'm going to do for just a few minutes is I'm going to go through some screenshots of this actual patent. I think I got them lined up in a semi-intelligent order, but I'm going to bring them up and we're going to talk about them, because this patent that was back in March of 2021 that it was first, the application was submitted in about August of this year. The U.S. Patent Office has actually granted this as a patent. So I'm just going to dive in, and I'll stop periodically and see if I can respond to some comments. But this is from the patent. In some embodiments, in view of the pandemic, the population is encouraged to install a dedicated app where those that do install the app are rewarded. In some embodiments, the reward is priority to receive treatment. Now look at that. In view of the pandemic, what does that mean? It means that they are using the scandemic to their advantage. They know, or they certainly hope, that they can get things done under the fear of a pandemic that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And it tells you that those that install the app, they get rewarded. Isn't that creepy? But there's more creepiness to come here. This is 0382 within that patent. In some embodiments, the behavior of the subject is monitored in relation to safety features performed by the subject. For example, wearing a mask, analyzing images taken during calls or other looking at a screen of a cell phone, washing hands. And it's telling you how they're going to analyze it, but they want to see if, like, you're wearing a mask, if you're washing the hands, if you're keeping social distancing, based on Bluetooth power levels and moving between multiple locations. And these embodiments, these are monitored using the same devices method as disclosed above. So this is a patent that is all about monitoring your every move. And folks, listen, they're very, very, very serious about this. This patent was awarded. I could say a lot about the whole contact tracing and enforcement industry that's just poised for more draconian measures in industry, where there's so many products that are on the shelf right now that would just love where you work, if you work at a big facility, for them to install systems where you wear something on your wrist or it's on your smartphone, but where you have literally a social distance controller, mask controller, and all of that information is uploaded to authorities. But we're going to keep moving here. I want to show you this next one here. In some embodiments, vaccines are all compounds as disclosed in the website of the World Health Organization. Now, we're going to talk about why vaccines in particular is important, basically because they want to be able to use this app to force those on you. But I want you to notice this. Where is the authority? See, the authority should be, it starts with you, your spouse, your family. That's where authority starts. On a government level, it's your township, then maybe your county, maybe your city, maybe your state, maybe, and eventually the federal government. But no, this is acknowledging the World Health Organization and what they list as suitable vaccines. They're given the ultimate authority. It takes it completely out of the hands of you and your doctor. And so here you have, globalism, you have the one world, the global medical mafia, etc. I'm going to keep rolling. In some embodiments, the system is used to identify which individuals, listen to this, guys, which individuals will receive which types of vaccines in relation to their potency. Now listen, for example, individuals that received or were identified as high super spreading score by the system would be vaccinated with more potent vaccines. Let me say that again. Individuals that received and or were identified as a high super spreading score by the system would be vaccinated with more potent vaccines when compared with other individuals having lower spreading scores. In some embodiments, those individuals having lower super spreading scores might either receive later a vaccination or receive a vaccine having a lower potency. So this is all about making sure that you have, and we're going to talk about Australia in a minute because they're already rolling this thing out, but they're talking about by any means necessary, your smartphone, another device just dedicated to that talks with everybody that you encounter, and there's, data dissemination and so forth. And that system will decide what dose you require. It will decide where you are on the priority status. So your forget it. You don't have it's not up to you to decide yes or no or how much or when. No. There's a score system based on where you go. And we showed it was Sunday night. I showed where, if you go to church, you're going to get a higher score, which higher in this case is bad because you're more of a super spreader. But the system is going to make these decisions for you, and it's going to prioritize your treatment levels, all kind of things. In some embodiments, the notification for getting treatment may or may not contain information regarding the results of the calculations. For example, an individual was identified as a super spreader may or may not receive information about the fact that he or she was identified as a super spreader. In some embodiments, the potential advantage of not providing such information is to further enhance the privacy protection of the user. So you have Big Brother and the global medical mafia Gestapo state monitoring you, deciding your super spreader status, and your name is written on a chalkboard somewhere or a database somewhere. The police are getting ready to come out, and we're going to show you that in just a moment. You may not even know. And it's right there. We just read it. You may not even know. It may be kept from you that you have a medical Gestapo that has you high on the list of somebody that needs to be apprehended. I'm going to break to a piece of video, and there's a couple of things that Dr. Karen Kingston shared that I want to be able to, let me bring this up here, bring it up here. Okay, there we go. And I'm just gonna play this clip, and then I'm gonna comment on it. Here we go.
Explain why. Because there is a reason. Lincoln has made a commitment to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Our Secretary of State, our state has made this commitment to roll out an artificial intelligence organization to be integrated across these global communities. And Lynn Parker, she is the director of National Artificial Intelligence at the White House. She called into the OECD meeting on October 4th, okay? She called in, and what she said was, we must prepare the future and the present U.S. workforce for integration of AI systems across all sectors of the economy and society. She goes on to say, this is on October 4th, keep in mind, this was just a few weeks ago. Our goal is to fill the AI talent gap. As if AI is another group of human beings. There is an AI talent gap.
Listen to this.
Prepare U.S. workers for jobs of the future by implementing policies that ensure a diverse, inclusive, and knowledgeable workforce. We would like to see the integration of AI-related concepts of schooling from kindergarten and even pre-kindergarten through doctoral positions, including community colleges.
Okay.
Explain why.
I'm gonna stop there. So now this might seem we're maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but folks, we're talking about the use of every kind of tracking mechanism known to man, from your smartphone to certain apps to even what if you could inject it directly into somebody? Better be a little bit dancing around the edges with that. But folks, if you have looked up looked up any information, you can just Google it up, YouTube it up, luciferase. They've bragged about that for a long time. It's a DARPA invention, but it's injected into the bloodstream of first of all, with our troops. And the whole idea is that lets someone monitor someone, some guy in a command center somewhere is monitoring the health status of our troops. And so some guy sitting there, in Langley or someplace like that, can say, uh-oh, we got Private Robinson in Afghanistan, or used to be Afghanistan, and it looks like he's coming down with a cold. You better give him some. I mean, folks, so that's an injectable system. But when you tie all of this into artificial intelligence, it starts to get scary. And I'm just follow with me for a moment. I had heard of this big conference, this international conference on AI that had happened, about 10 days ago by now. But the reason I wanted to play you that clip was that I was not aware that there is a White House person and a person on the White House staff that called in those messages. And folks, the faux Biden administration, the pretender in chief, the despicable in chief, the temporary health in chief, that who is not running anything, who is not even awake, the evil forces behind that, folks, they are all in on this AI. I mean, they're completely all in on that, and it's very, 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 very concerning. Now, hang on, and we're going to get back to. Okay, so let me see what else here. Back to the patent. In some embodiments, the correction can be. I'm going to back up. In some embodiments, insertion of the codes into their personal electronic devices will inform the system that the encrypted anonymized user needs a correction in their score. So you may be, folks, this is all about coercion and behavior modification. Correction in their score. In some embodiments, the correction can be either increasing the score, which means you're more likely to get jabby dude, or decreasing the score. And some embodiments, when the electronic device detects certain behavior, like an increase in the movements of the user, like you went to church, like you went to a ball game, the electronic device, for example, via the dedicated app, will warn the user, now listen to this, will warn the user that his score will be changed if the behavior is not changed. And some embodiments, changing the score can either be increasing or decreasing. But I want to read that earlier again. In some embodiments, will warn the user that his score will be changed if the behavior is not changed. If you're commenting, please leave a comment. I would like to know, is that creepy to you? That this patent exists and our patent office granted this patent, and they're talking about all of this data, all kinds of data on you, and this whole system will let you know when it's time to modify your behavior, and it will warn you. It'll say, Sally, you go to that restaurant again, meet with those people, we're going to change your score. Pastor Dan, if you're in the house, you have church again with people actually in the building, we're going to raise your score, buddy. And once we raise your score, that is going to determine the level of potency of the vaccine that you have no choice over. I'd like to know, does that sound creepy to you? It's very, very, very creepy. Folks, these people, it ain't easy to get a patent. You spend money on it. You spend a lot of time. These people aren't playing around. This is somebody's absolute intention, goal, design, etc. Let's keep going. We're almost done with these. In some embodiments, the app will also be used to send personalized communication to the users. For example, to come and be vaccinated. You're going to have you need to be back. You're going to have something tracking you or following you around. You turn on your computer, it's yelling at you. You pick up your phone, it's yelling at you. Maybe you turn on your smart TV and it's telling you got to give it. In some embodiments, in view of the information received from the app, specific actions are taken. For example, send a communication to the user to enhance. Now listen to this again. Here's that B word, to enhance his awareness to behavioral rules during the pandemic, to come and be vaccinated, to avoid certain locations which are at high risk of contagion. Now let me back up here. To enhance his awareness to behavioral rules during the pandemic. Oh my God, I would just like to camp here. Behavioral rules during the pandemic. So all you have to do is use unelected global medical mafia types to establish a pandemic. And all rules are out the window, because once there's a pandemic, and all you have to do is ship another couple hundred million to the Wuhan lab, they'll come out with something else. I mean, that's easy enough to do. Okay. And then all of a sudden they're in control, because they're the ones that dictate the behavioral rules during a pandemic. Wow. We might be near. Let me see if I've got anything else here. Okay. So you might say, okay, that's just a patent in the U.S. and so far. Well, wait a second. Before you dismiss this, this is basically being rolled out in Australia right now. This is a screenshot of westernaustralia.gov.au, and they have this G2G now. What is G2G now, and why should I use it? Well, let's find out. Let me back up. G2G now is an app, and these are some questions that, maybe frequently asked questions. This is an app that is being forced upon or coerced as successfully as possible upon Western Australians right now. If you wanted to enter into Western Australia, you cannot get into Western Australia. I was all over their website without downloading this app and agreeing to all of its terms. So these are just some frequently asked questions that they put on this website. And this isn't an official Western Australian government website. And all of this is taken from there. So let's just go through some of these questions. Will my personal data be deleted if I remove the app from my phone? You can delete the G2G Now app from your phone at any time after the completion of your quarantine period. Now listen to this. This will delete all the G2G information from your phone. So what? I'm not worried about deleting it from my phone. I want to know if it's going to delete all the information that you've collected. Data that Western Australian police store will be stored and destroyed in accordance with legal record-keeping requirements. In other words, trust us. Now, here's I probably haven't explained this quite thoroughly enough. So if you want to enter into Australia, you're going to have to quarantine. Or if, somebody, 3,000 miles away has a sniffle, then you probably have to quarantine. But with this app, it will sound an alarm or register an alarm, and you've got 5 minutes to register. And you've got to let it take a picture of you, and it will use artificial intelligence, and it will use facial recognition, and it'll correlate that with a time stamp and with GPS information to verify that you are where you are supposed to be. So here's a question. What if I'm sleeping, showering, or gardening when I receive a check-in request and don't respond? Now, folks, I took this screenshot off the website less than 2 or 3 hours ago. So this is right now. G2G Now is designed to make people's lives easier, not harder. If you miss your check-in window, you will be sent a second check-in request shortly after the first one. Isn't that friendly? Isn't that nice? If you miss the second request, the app will prompt you to give a reason. Police will then determine what further action, if any, is required, such as follow-up calls or physical check-in. Folks, how do you feel? And folks, how do you feel about the police getting involved with your medical life and these kind of invasions of privacy? And I love the Australian people. All of this, it is being pushed on the world to the extent that people put up with it. And unfortunately, the good folks in Australia put themselves in a position where they can't really fight back. But here in the U.S., we have a little more to fight back with. But I'm still talking about this G2G app, which I just find extremely creepy. Now, will my photos only be used for this app and quarantine compliance purposes, or will it be kept on police records? The information is collected through the G2G now app is collected for monitoring quarantine arrangement. It's not collected for general policing purposes. Now listen to this. The information will be stored and used only as permitted by law. But guess what? The whole thing of the G2G and all this other stuff has nothing to do with the law, because if you have an emergency authorization, there is no law. You can just do whatever you want. Now, the one that I really want to show you, oh, yeah, okay. How does maybe this should have been my first slide about G2G. How does it work? Once you've downloaded the app and register your details, that means all your information if you're in the States. In Australia, they say details. Anyway, you'll be prompted to check in using the app at various times throughout the 14-day query period. When you receive a notification to check in, you have 5 minutes to take a photo of yourself. All right, now, look at this. I've highlighted it. Western Australian police are carrying out regular checks on people in quarantine to ensure everyone is doing the right thing, doing their part, being a good little citizen. If police officers arrive at your registered address and you are not there, you may have committed an offense under the Emergency Management Act, which can result in fines up to $50,000 and imprisonment. How do you feel like that about that, ladies and gentlemen? $50,000 in fines and imprisonment. And there's one other, I want to play this one clip. This is extremely important. This is another thing that I learned from listening to Karen Kingston. I did not know this information. I did not know this. And I'm going to try to play that for you right now, because she's going to tell you something that happened. It was one of the last things that Obama signed into law right before he left office in 2016. Here it is.
There is a reason. Lincoln has made a commitment to the Organization for Ethics.
Okay, I played that. Here we go.
Like, well, I didn't get a kit and I didn't get instruction. Keep in mind, on December 13th in 2016, under the Obama's CARES Act, Section 3024, it was passed that during an EUA and under clinical research, informed consent was waived if informed consent is not in the best interest of a human subject to know. So if our government decided we shouldn't know we were injected with a smart device, it's not in our best interest, then that would not be disclosed to us. And if you go on to the path.
Okay, I'm going to jump in right there. I heard this, and this was shocking to me, because listen, folks, Nuremberg. What is the whole principle of Nuremberg? Nuremberg trials, Nuremberg, so forth. It's that you can't subject people to anything against their will, and any kind of procedure, any kind of medical procedure. There must be informed consent. And I wanted to play you that clip because I've not seen the documentation, but if Karen Kingston says she's seen it, in my opinion, she has seen it. And I had no idea that Obama signed something. Now, it's completely unconstitutional. It's completely immoral, but still signed some legislation or signed an executive or whatever. But those emergency use authorizations, all of a sudden, there's no such thing as informed consent. So it's just a matter of how hard they're willing to push it, which means it's also just a matter of how resolute are you and I to push back. So I want to leave this subject here. I want to leave this subject, but I do just want to tease a little bit about this before we go, because this is very important. This is something that we are going to spend, I'm going to be paying some attention to. And where are we at? I just want to show you this. I'm going to see if I can blow it up a little bit. This is the OECD.ai. It's literally a domain. And this is the artificial, folks, people from all over the world, heads of state, heads of government, are getting together to agree on AI and you heard that earlier clip, getting involved in the workplace, getting involved in education from kindergarten to doctoral level. Folks, this is really, really, really creepy. And it's got 666 and it's got Mark of the Beast and it's got it written all over it. And so that is something that we are definitely going to be paying a lot of attention to. I'm going to pause just for a minute. Anybody got a question? Anybody still with me? Okay, I want to talk about Colin Powell. And I think what I'm going to do is begin by I'm going to start with something that President Trump said. Now, first of all, let me be very clear. It's sad that Mr. Powell passed away. It really, really is. It was sad when John McCain passed away. I'll tell you what I said when John McCain passed away. I am not happy that he is deceased. I am, if I'm being honest, which I was and which I am, very glad that he's off the stage. He could have been off the stage without being deceased. I'll say the same thing. Colin Powell died in a state of disgrace. I don't say that with hate. I don't say that with rancor. But I refuse to speak untruth. I'm just not going to do that. We're going to talk about Colin Powell, but let's kind of premise it this way. Wow, this is from Gateway Pundit. President Trump releases statement on Colin Powell, does not hold back. And all you can just hear the libs out there. How dare you? He's Colin Powell. And of course, we all know that if you have any military in your background, you can't be criticized. John McCain couldn't be criticized because he was a prisoner of war one time. You've got that Crenshaw character in Texas that I personally despises his public service, but you can't criticize him because he was wounded. Why got news for you? One accomplishment eons ago does not give you lifetime exemption from being critiqued. So I just want to read you what President Trump said. Wonderful to see Colin Powell, who made big mistakes on Iraq and famously so-called weapons of mass destruction, be treated in death so beautifully by the fake news media. Hope that happens to me someday. He was a classic rhino, if even that, always being the first to attack other Republicans. He made plenty of mistakes, but anyway, may he rest in peace. Now, I am going to pause right here. Do you believe that President Trump was out of line? Do you believe that President Trump, how dare he say something like that? Was he out of line for saying that? I'm going to tell you my bias. I don't think he was. I don't think he was. And I don't know if this is the best time to introduce this, but there's this notion that as you know, and most patriots, in my experience, they just, for some reason, they happen to be Christians. Most of the ones that I encounter anyway. But I want to, but that's just my experience. So I just want to remind a Christian audience, I just want to read you a little scriptures from Luke chapter 3, verse 19. Let me just use the New International Version. But when John rebuked Herod, the tetrarch, because of his marriage to Herodias, his brother's wife, so John rebuked a ruler and called him out on his perversion and called him out on his sin. So you may say, yes, but you that's like a last resort. You only call people out if it's really, really, really egregious. Well, I would counter by saying in these days and time, it seems like nobody calls anybody out anything. But I think people are forgetting the second half of that verse. Because of his marriage to Herodias, his brother's wives, and all, how big is the word all? And all the other evils he had done. Let me read the whole verse for you. When John rebuked Herod the tetrarch because of his marriage to Herodias, his brother's wife, and all the other evils that he has done. Now, we're talking about the esteemed I read Colin Powell's autobiography. There's a lot to be impressed by. But let me just go back to the first Gulf War. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if my recollection of history was wrong. Wasn't Colin Powell basically go with the flow when George Bush, under the pretense of liberating Kuwait, got everybody into the Gulf War. But did you know that George Bush Sr. looked the American people and the world right in the eye and lied to their face when he told that story of these Iraqi soldiers going into a nursery in a hospital and grabbing babies off of incubators and throwing them on the ground and stomping on them? George Bush actually said that. And it was a complete and total lie. Never happened. And there was a 15-year-old daughter of a Kuwaiti ambassador that told, I think testified before Congress, but it was a setup and it was a lie, and George Bush repeated it to sell the American people on a lie. But then let's just fast forward. Where was Colin Powell with all this weapons of mass destruction? Where was he? Was he speaking out with any kind of clarity? Was he, no? Tell me if I'm wrong, folks. Didn't he just go right along and watch us under pretenses that were under false pretenses move forward? Now, what do I got here? I want to go to this story, if you can see it. Okay, this is from CNN. Colin Powell's surprise endorsement of Barack Obama reveals a lot about his view of America. So I'm staying with I'm trying to do a little timeline here. So he's completely involved in getting us into Afghanistan. But by 2008, where do I have this? 2008, he just decides to endorse Barack Obama. And I'm going to just stop right there. Colin Powell was never a conservative. It was never had any bedrock values. You can say, how do you know he wasn't a conservative? Because conservatives don't endorse pro-abortion people. They just don't do it. I could hang the argument right there. So let's just talk about this guy that he endorsed. All right. He pro-abortion, immediately goes on an apology tour around the world. Obamacare. It was under Obama that the deep state just absolutely entrenched themselves. And did you notice that Obama was the first president that never left town? That's because his influence never left town. Let's just keep going. Did you know that Obama, and see, you would think that a guy of Colin Powell's rank would have some clue as to these things going on. But Obama, within the first couple of months of him taking office, and I'm not going to say the name of this particular computer system because they like to censor it. If I was banging on nails with something, I would probably use anyway. That was moved like from Langley or some CIA official, domicile, and moved to another location so that it could be basically third-party contracted. But what it was this enormous surveillance system that the United States intelligence agencies had developed so they could snoop on anybody outside of the United States. It was Obama that turned them on U.S. citizens. And it was Obama that turned the IRS on conservative groups and on Tea Party groups. Remember all of that? And no, Colin Powell, God rest your soul. But if he were here today, I would say that was the stupidest, most disloyal, most disingenuous. And I want to bring this up. And folks, I apologize if I'm stumbling a little bit, but I wanted to, this article here, Obama at the time was saying that he appreciated Powell's endorsements because people were questioning. He took the opportunity. Obama recalled, the correct answer is that he's not a Muslim, he's a Christian, General Powell said. Let me read what's highlighted. At a time when conspiracy theories were swirling, with some questioning my faith, General Powell took the opportunity to get to the heart of the matter in a way that only he could. Because Powell said the correct answer is he's not a Muslim, he's a Christian. Well, you know what, Barack, and I hope you're listening, I don't question your faith at all. I don't believe your faith. And folks, if I make anybody mad, I apologize. Here's something that here's a promise that I will make to Barack. I'd also make the same promise to Pete Buttigieg. Because the only reason Christianity comes up is because you brought it up. It's because you brought it up. Pete Buttigieg brought that up when he was trying to campaign to be president. And I will just say this, Mr. Buttigieg, if you can look me in the eye and you can say, Jesus Christ is Lord, he's the Messiah, the only way to God, and Jesus Christ has come in the flesh, if you can look me in the eye and tell me that, okay, I'll believe you. And then I'll pray for you very, very seriously. And I'd say the same thing. Man, I don't know if I'm on a rant here, folks, but okay. So what else I got? What else we got? Let me see here. Then Mr. Getting back to Colin Powell. Colin, what did you think about this whole Iran deal where we gave them everything that they wanted and left that huge amount of cash on the tarmac there? What kind of judgment were you using then when you turned around and you endorsed a witch named Hillary, a pro-abortion? And were you so clueless, sir? Were you so clueless that you couldn't see through the fake Steele dossier that the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for, the fake Steele dossier and the whole Russia? Were you so clueless? Folks, seriously, it makes you wonder. I can't believe he could be that clueless. What it does make me wonder is it's either he was completely clueless and so you can't respect that, or what did somebody have on him? What did somebody have on him? So he turns around and endorses Hillary. And then, folks, I'm sorry if I lost everybody, I lost everybody. But then he turns around and he endorses Biden? Are you kidding me? Seriously. Are you kidding me? Where is it? I wanted to show you this. Okay. So he knew that anybody watching would know that Biden, once again, is on the altar of Baal, another pro-abortionist. He's in neck deep in China. That Hunter, all of that, unless you're an idiot. And I don't think you were an idiot, Mr. Powell. And I know he's deceased here, but you back this guy? Really? He's compromised with China. His son is a scumball. If you're paying any attention that Joe was deep, deep in corruption in Ukraine, all of this, and then you turn around and endorse him. And then even as recently as this summer, Colin Powell backed Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal plan before death. Had to get out. We could say a lot more about that, folks. We could say a lot more about that. But I'm sorry. I'm not going to eulogize as a great American hero that guy that helped lie us into Afghanistan and then basically put a stamp of endorsement on the disgraceful way that we got out. And so if I'm not a John the Baptist, because I don't eat locusts and wild honey. I eat honey, but I don't eat locusts. I don't think, But if John the Baptist was willing to call out Herod for the egregious stuff and all the evils that he had done, frankly, I believe that a lot of the things, and a lot of people could do a lot better job of going through it than I did, but a lot of that stuff lines up as evil. It really, really does. And so God rest his soul. And then there's one other thing I'm going to say. He was from New York originally. And maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that on Thursday. Folks, I'm running out of time. I did not plan on talking 44 minutes. I've got some other stuff I wanted to share with you. So I'm just going to summarize it by saying this. I would, along the same line, if I'm in Rantland, I'm in Rantland. You know what? Maybe I can find it quick enough. Maybe I can get it there. I'm going to play one more clip. If you're with me, please hang in there for just a second. I want to talk about Texas for just a moment, if we may. And I'm going to bring this up. And because, folks, I really believe that it is time. I really believe that it's time that we just speak the truth. And I think I can close with this. A leader comes along and we like them. And so we tend to always want to give them a pass. Big mistake, because they're not leaders. They're servants. How many of you people have to oversee employees, or you're a manager, you have people on your team? Well, when somebody messes up, I mean, do you at least correct them? I'm not saying you got to throw the book, yell and scream and whatnot. But when somebody that works for you is wrong or makes a mistake, do you correct them or not? Well, guess what? Our elected leaders, they work for us. And we need to stop giving them a pass. I'm going to play 60 seconds of video, and then I'm going to talk about Greg Abbott for a minute, and then I'm going to shut up, maybe.
As far as taking it into our own hands, the Border Patrol we didn't have much choice. Border Patrol was completely overwhelmed at the time. Mm-hmm. Thousands of people coming, just turning themselves in that wanted to get caught, created this problem. And this
I might jump in here real quick. Right now,
this is real important what he's going to say.
And they want to travel north. There's nothing at all standing in their way except the farmers and ranchers in our county. There's not a law enforcement presence on the ground. There's nothing. And so we're trying to protect our residents of the county that are standing in the way of this invasion right now. And with the limited resources we have, it's just not possible. And so that's why we've done, several things. We've requested, 2,000 or 15, or I think 2,000 National Guard from the governor. We haven't heard back anything from him yet. And we've also have a website up to get donations for supplies.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there, folks. This was breaking news last night, and this Texas sheriff is deputizing 10 additional deputies to help them deal with the border crisis. But I wanted you to hear, and I believe this guy's a county commissioner that we just heard, but here's what I wanted you to hear. He said he's reached out to the Texas governor's office and they haven't heard beans. They haven't heard anything. And I could pull up screenshots. I'm way over time. I'm not going to do that. But, the story where Governor Abbott is basically begging the Biden administration, we want to work side by side. Let me just sign off with this, folks. Greg Abbott is a disgrace. He is a disgrace. There is another 90,000 strong surge of invaders coming to the Texas border. How many hundreds of thousands of people have crossed over the border this year? And what has Abbott done about it? Nothing. And I realize probably 99% of the people out there do not think like I think. I'm just going to tell you what I think. I think it's a disgrace when you allow your state to be invaded by hundreds of thousands of people. You've got, if are my numbers right, folks? He's got something like 20,000 National Guard troops that he could deploy. What, he wants to get permission from Joe Biden to do so? Why do you need permission from a federal government that's of lesser rank than the state government? Okay, maybe I've made my point. I think it is an absolute disgrace that you, Greg Abbott, that you would allow your state to be overrun. And if it would mean a showdown between you and that skinhead that we have as head of Homeland Security, well, go ahead and have a showdown. You're Texas, ain't you? What are you doing? Folks, I'm just giving an opinion and I'm ranting, but folks, I just mean this so strong. I'm tired of giving people a pass. This guy should be doing something. If he would stand up and if he would be strong and say, no, our border is secure, there wouldn't be any problem with money. The money would just come. If it had to flow in completely from the private sector, but he's not done anything like that. Okay, I didn't plan on talking 50 minutes. So, 11 Lime says it's all a show. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you hanging it in. And this is longer than I normally go, folks. But as I close, which I'm good at saying I'm closing and I don't close, it's just that we need to not give people a pass. You know, we need to not give people a pass. We need to be able to, you know, praise things that are praiseworthy, but still point out things that aren't right. And so maybe I've made my point. Listen, you do not want to miss our Thursday night episode coming up. We are going to have our segment on real on the streets revivalists. We're really excited about that, and you're going to enjoy that. We're going to have some more news and whatnot. But listen, please be strong. Please don't give up the fight. I hope the stuff we shared in the first part of this program just gets you creeped out enough that you're angry enough that you're not going to put up with it, that you're not going to give in, you're going to stand up for your rights, and don't be a Colin Powell and don't be a Greg Abbott. That's a pretty good way to end. I think we can end on that one. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys. Keep us in your prayers, and until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio, which is standing up for the United States of America. And we are hanging in there for the rest of the free world. Good night, y'all.